Hey there, duelists. Welcome back to Team APS Plus. Today, we're going to be getting an early look at Structure Deck, Beware of Traptrix, before it comes out on February 24th. This one's really cool. It supports the Traptrix archetype. It's always been a fan favorite, one that I like to recommend to new players because it's simple, straightforward, and very effective. I should probably mention I have 3 of this deck, so I'm going to be putting 3 of them together to make a sort of budget deck that you could build yourself at home when this comes out. So something I just noticed is that it says Yu-Gi-Oh! 25th quarter century anniversary. I think that this symbol is going to be on every product that releases this year, I suspect. The Traptrix may appear cute on the surface, but if you get too close, they'll devour you whole. These carnivorous plants and insects are always on the hunt for your opponent's monsters. First, Traptrix monsters help you set powerful whole trap cards that can drop your opponent's monsters right out of the duel. Then, they gather to feast on your opponent's life points. The structure deck comes with a wide array of useful trap cards that you can use to power up any deck. Konami's really been nailing it with the structure decks lately. I think that they've all been hits. Dark Roll was really good. Crystal Beast was really good. Okay, so this is our game guide. It kind of just tells us some strategies, how to play the deck. I really like this. They actually describe research on Traptrix, the carnivorous creatures. But what we're most concerned with is the deck itself. Beware of Traptrix. So let's open it up and have a look. All right, so right off the bat, we've got a new Traptrix monster. This is Traptrix Pudica. It is unaffected by the effects of whole normal trap card that goes across the archetype for the most part. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. When she's normal summoned, you can add a Traptrix Garden from your deck to your hand. That sounds like a new card, I haven't heard of that. And if it's special summoned, you can target a special summoned monster your opponent controls, banish it, but during the next standby phase, your opponent can special summon one of their banished monsters. It could even be a different one than the one that you banished. Next, we have Traptrix Garden, not Traptrix Garden, but during your main phase, you can normal summon a Traptrix monster in addition to your normal summoner set. You can only gain this effect once per turn. The first time each insect or plant monster you control will be destroyed by battle each turn, it's not destroyed. And finally, you can banish one monster you control, special summon a Traptrix monster from your hand or graveyard. So a lot of really great utility built into this one field spell card, so definitely one of the ones that you'll want to be running, searching, and activating as soon as possible. Trap Tantalizing Tune. Discard one level 4 insect or plant monster, or normal trap, draw 2 cards. Wow, so it's kind of a Allure of Darkness trade-in-esque card. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your banished level 4 insect or plants or normal traps, place it on the bottom of the deck. Cool, so you get a little bit of recycling in the process. I'll never complain about that. A new Xyz monster. So the Traptrix deck is all about Xyz monsters. They've got a number of Xyz monsters and Link monsters as well. This takes 2 level 4 monsters. So while it has material, it's unaffected by trap effects and the activated effects of other monsters with the same type as this card's material. Interesting type of protection there. You can only use each of the following effects of Penguicula. I'm gonna just butcher these names this whole time. Once per turn, you can detach one material from this card, add a Traptrix monster from your deck to your hand. If a monster or monsters owned by your opponent sent to the graveyard or banished by a card effect, you can attach one of those monsters to this card's material. So I can already tell off the bat that this is kind of meant to work with your trap hole cards because you'll be using those to get rid of your opponent's monsters, and then you can attach them to her. As you attach more monsters underneath this Xyz monster, it will become unaffected by more and more different types of activated effects. So it is a really cool kind of control restrictive strategy against your opponent. And a new Link monster, Traptrix Adipus. It's a Link 3 monster. I really like the art she's got here. So, it takes 2+ monsters, including an insect or a plant. This Link summoned card is unaffected by trap effects. All Traptrix monsters you control gain 1,000 attack while you have a normal trap in your graveyard. Cool. So she'll be at 2,800, and your other Traptrix, which are normally more middling in strength, will be much stronger. Once per turn, you can target a face-up card or cards your opponent controls up to the number of insect and plant monsters you control, negate their effects until the end of this turn. And then you can apply this effect. Banish a normal trap from your graveyard, and if you do, destroy one of those targeted face-up cards. Wow, very strong effect. So it can shut your opponent's field off and get rid of their cards. It is Link 3 though, so it's a bit of a commitment, but I think that this deck should not have really too many problems with that. You'll be getting new Traptrix monsters in the field pretty much every turn. Super rare card, Traptrix Arachnacampa. It's unaffected by whole normal traps. The first time each set card in your spawn trap zone will be destroyed by a card effect each turn, it's not destroyed. So that gets rid of those pesky cards like Harpy's Feather Duster, and it'll be a lot harder for you to lose your back row cards. During the main phase, if you control a Traptrix monster, quick effect. You can special summon this card from your hand. Also, you can't special summon monsters from the extract for the rest of the turn except insects or plants. So she shows up on the field and she protects your back row. Nice. She will probably be very helpful for getting the necessary materials needed to summon either of these two monsters. Now we have a reprinted card, super rare copy of Evenly Matched. I gotta say, I really, really like this. Evenly Matched is always one of those cards that's just sort of a staple or free agent, you could call it. You can use it in a lot of different decks, especially since this is the first time I think it's been printed super rare, and I think it looks pretty darn good, wouldn't you say? Next is Traptrix Holuta. Anyways, it's a normal trap. You can activate this card the turn it was set by discarding a normal trap. Special summon this card in defense position as a normal monster with 400 attack, 2400 defense, an Earth level 4 plant. It's not treated as a trap. You can banish it from your grave to target a Traptrix monster in your grave and special summon it. Cool, so this is another one of these cards that can help you more quickly get the materials needed to make a Link or Xyz monster, and you can then banish it from the grave later on to summon another Traptrix monster. And as you know, Traptrix monsters get different effects when they're special summoned. Okay, so that gets us through all of the new stuff. Seemingly, there might be a few more cards later on. Now we get to some of the more familiar Traptrix monsters. This is Traptrix Atrax, Traptrix Myrmelio, this is one of the first ones that ever came out, very cool. Traptrix Nepenthes, Traptrix Dionea, Traptrix Genlesia, I think this is a newer-ish one. Traptrix Vesiculo, and now a few other reprints, like Gadarla, the Mystery Dust Kaiju. Nobody's gonna complain about getting more copies of any Kaiju monster, really, but they gave us the insect ones, like Humongous, the Sticky String Kaiju, Retaliating Sea, this is a really fun one, so this actually supports insect cards, Resonance Insect, Lone Fire Blossom, Ash Blossom, and Joyous Spring gets reprinted in here again. That's really cool. I've always said that Ash Blossom is such an accessible card that so many different decks can use that there's really never a time that it shouldn't just be getting constant reprints, so I will never complain about that. We get Rose Lover, some plant support, Sage de Fleur, Mekk-Knight Purple Nightfall, and Blue Sky. Interesting additions to the strategy. And there's certainly cards that I don't think anybody's gonna say no to reprints of. You also get Artifact Morale Tech, Fire Hand, Ice Hand, and Thunder Hand. Now, for those of you guys who haven't been playing for a super long time, these remind me suspiciously of a past Yu-Gi-Oh! Format called Hat, where it was basically hand artifacts and trap tricks. And it seems like Konami took some inspiration from that format for this deck. I see you, Konami. Next, we've got spell cards. So we get Raigeki and Harpy's Feather Duster, which is like, whoa, okay. Never thought both would be in a structure deck together, but no complaints. A common Harpy's Feather Duster is always really cool, especially in this art. This is my preferred artwork for this card. All right, so now we have what seems to be a new trap card, Terrifying Trap Hole Nightmare. If your opponent special summoned a monster or monsters this turn, target a monster your opponent controls with 2,000 or more attack, destroy it, and then you have a whole normal trap in your graveyard. You can banish a monster from your opponent's graveyard. I suppose even the monster that you just hit with this. That would be pretty handy, eh? Trap Hole, Bottomless Trap Hole, another Bottomless Trap Hole, Void Trap Hole, Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare. I remember when this card first came out and it was quite a potent one. Another copy of it. Floodgate Trap Hole, this is a really strong card. Funny story, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duels, for those of you guys who play that format, this card is legal, but I think it recently was limited to 1 copy, or maybe 2, I don't know. But yeah, Gravedigger's Trap Hole, this is a really cool one. It can stop effects in your opponent's hand or graveyard. Traptrix to get access to any normal trap in your deck as long as you have 2 copies of it. The Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine. Cool. Artifact Sanctum, yeah, I see those artifacts, Konami. Naturia Sacred Tree, and a few more extra deck monsters like Traptrix Rafflesia, a very strong early Traptrix Xyz monster, Traptrix Alamaris, Traptrix Cularia, Traptrix Sarah, Traptrix Mantis, kind of just here at the end, interesting. And you can also play Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel if you want to. Oh, and Photon Hypernova is also probably out by the time I'm seeing this video. It actually has some cool insect cards in it as well that would probably synergize pretty well with the cards in this deck if you're willing to experiment around Duelist. Oh yeah, and real quick before I forget, I'm gonna be giving away 2 copies of this new Beware of Traptrix structure deck. So if you're interested in winning a copy, all you gotta do is drop a like on this video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and let me know down in the comments. what is your favorite Traptrix monster? So I'm back and I've got my triple Beware of Traptrix structure deck build. This is what you can make if you have 3 copies of the deck. This is just kind of a basic entry-level thing. I went for a pretty pure, just Traptrix strategy, so you could change this loads and loads and loads on your own. And of course, like I said, there's loads of insect and plant monster support that's already out and coming out. I decided to go with 3 copies of the new Traptrix Pudica. She lets you get your field spell. Now, I feel like you could probably get away with running just 2 copies of it, but I think that 3 is still totally fine because she has a really good effect when she's special summoned, letting you get rid of your opponent's cards. So I feel like there's still a lot of really great applications. So yeah, 3 of her, 3 copies of Arachnacampa. Now this is one of my favorites. I definitely think that this is like a pretty mandatory 3 of, in my opinion. The fact that she protects your back row is nice, but I think more importantly, it's just the fact that she can special summon herself as a quick effect if you want. And this is a deck that doesn't actually have a lot of ways to like just get monsters out on the field, but you'll need that if you want to make your Xyz monsters and your Link monsters. So I think in that way, she's extremely valuable. Next, we've got 2 Traptrix Myrmelio. This is something that you could definitely go up to 3 copies on. So like by all means, don't like take this as, you know, law or anything. When it's normal summoned, you get a whole normal trap card. If it's special summoned, you get to pop a spell or trap. Definitely really useful. If nothing else, you can always just normal summon Myrmelio and set some sort of a trap hole and have some defense. But ideally in this deck, you'll be able to do a little bit more than that. Next is Traptrix Mantis. So this one's kind of similar. When she's normal summoned, you get to add a Traptrix monster from your deck to your hand instead of a spell or trap card. And that's really useful because you can actually use Traptrix Mantis to search for Arachnacampa. And then you can just use these 2 to make like any Xyz monster that you want. Now, typically, if you only have 1 Traptrix monster, you're going to want to go into Traptrix Sarah. But these are just some ways that you can, you know, utilize like 1 monster to get 2 in the field, things like that. So, yeah. Next is Traptrix Vesiculo. Now, this is another one that can summon itself, but it's a little bit more difficult. You have to send a set trap you control to the graveyard, and then it lets you summon it from hand. So yeah, it costs you a little bit more in terms of card advantage, but just because traps are in your grave does not mean you won't be having access to them again. Also, if you don't control any cards, you can banish it from the grave to set a normal trap in your graveyard back to your field. That can be the same trap you set to Summoner, so yeah. Next, I'm running 2 Dionea. Now, I feel like you could get away with just 1 copy of this if you really wanted to. It could be another Myrmelio or something, but don't think too hard about it, all right? Anyway, the point is, when this is normal summoned, you get to summon a Traptrix monster from your grave. And as you know, a lot of them have different effects when they get special summoned than when they get normal summoned. Also, you can target a whole normal trap card when she gets special summoned and set it to your field, but it does get banished during the next end phase. So you got to make sure to use it pretty quick if you want to get any application. Next, we're going with Triple Ash Blossom. This is a pretty staple card for many decks. This is just a great way to deal with your opponent's search effects, and yeah, that's really it. You know, Ash Blossom. All right, now we have some spells. So I'm actually running only 2 copies of the new field spell Trap Trip Garden. I'm always more of a fan of like 2 copies of field spells like this because it's searchable via Traptrix Pudica. But more importantly, once it's on the field and it's kind of doing stuff for you, you don't really want to see like more copies of it. So I just think that 2 is fine. As you guys know, it does let you get an extra normal summon, which is awesome. It lets you protect your monsters from battle once each, and you can banish any monster you control to summon another Traptrix from your hand or graveyard. And as we know, they get different effects when they're special summoned. So that can be very helpful for just, you know, rotating them on and off the board. Next, we're running triple copies of Trap Tantalizing Tune. This is just a draw card. There are plenty of Traptrix monsters that'll be going, you know, around in your hand and stuff like that. So you can just discard them and get some draws. And it can also recycle things, and that's never too bad. So yeah. Next, we've got 1 Raigeki, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. I just feel like these cards are just way too powerful not to make much use of. This card's limited to 1 anyway, but you can actually run more copies of Raigeki. I think that these can be really helpful for a controlling deck like Traptrix, where the goal is kind of to like 1-for-1 your opponent to death, ideally maybe getting a plus here and there, and so these random blowout cards can swing the game in your favor really fast, so that's why I like them. Anyways, that's all for the spells, not a whole lot of spells, because as you guys know, these are trap tricks, not spell tricks. So, first we've got 2 copies of Traptrix Holotea, I believe I'm saying that right. So, as you guys know, she can special summon herself, and also she can recycle cards from your graveyard. You can just summon one, and that's really nice. I quite like this card. I think that you could really get away with 3, but I'm doing 2 copies of a lot of the different traps in this deck because I'm running 3 Traptrix. So not to be confused with Traptrix with an X, this card is Traptrick, and I'm running 3 Traptrix. So point is, yeah, you banish a normal trap from your deck, and then you get to set a card with the same name from your deck. And pretty much every card that we're running in here is a normal trap. So yeah, you can have access to any trap hole that you want very easily. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind with this card. This does mean that you have to run 2 copies of the card that you want to get with it. And also, after you use Traptrick, you can use the card that you set immediately that turn, but you only get to use 1 more trap in the turn that you use this. So just things to keep in mind. Be careful, all right? Next, Terrifying Trap Hole Nightmare. So this is the new one. If your opponent has already special summoned a monster, then you get to target one of their cards with 2,000 or more attack, destroy it, and if you've got a whole normal trap in your grave, you can banish a card from their grave. Could be the thing that you destroyed with this. This is something that's useful, but do keep in mind that your opponent needs to have already summoned a monster in the given turn. So, yeah. This site is interesting. It has like the goblin that's featured in a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card arts. I guess it got trapped by the Traptrix, and now they're laughing before they consume him. Then we've got Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare. This is a favorite of mine. When your opponent special summoned a monster this turn and activated its effects, you can negate that effect and then destroy the card. So, very handy. Grave Digger's Trap Hole. This is a really great one too. It can stop effects that activate in your opponent's hand, graveyard, or even banished cards, and it burns them for 2,000. This is brutal, especially when you combine it with something like Traptrix for Felicia, because then it allows you to use it from the deck, and that can be great for stopping pesky hand traps. There's always a pesky hand trap. Floodgate Trap Hole, so this one's handy for setting cards back face down. It forces the card face down when your opponent summons it, and it can never get flipped back face up, so it can't be used even as like link material, Xyz material, synchro material. It can be fused with though, just something to keep in mind, but yeah. And finally, I'm running 3 copies of Evenly Matched. Now, I don't think that you necessarily have to run this. It's a really strong blowout card, but also it can be a little bit difficult. At the end of the battle phase, your opponent controls more cards than you use this, and they have to banish cards they control face down until they have the same amount of cards as you do. So it'll always be 1 ideally. Now the thing about this though is that because you're going to be setting a lot of trap cards, this is mostly more useful early on in the game. Once you've got a lot of traps and stuff set, this card might not really get you as much use. It really may be better off in the side deck if you're planning to play this in a tournament. But that's all for the main deck. Now I'll quickly run through the extra deck. So, you have plenty of cards by getting like 3 copies of this structure, so this is, you might not even use all of these in one duel. You could probably replace them with other more useful rank 4 Xyz or something like that. But first of all, we've got Traptrix Sarah. This is kind of the staple Traptrix Link monster. It's a Link 1, which is always a very powerful thing to have. It takes any of your non-Link Traptrix monsters, and yeah, if a normal trap gets activated, you can summon a Traptrix from your deck with a different name than the cards you control. And if a Traptrix monster activates its effect, you can set a whole normal trap card. So this is incredible. It gets your strategy moving really fast, and you want to have 3 of this. Meanwhile, only 2 copies of Traptrix Cularia. So it's unaffected by trap effects, but more importantly, after you activate a whole normal trap, you can set it instead of sending it to the graveyard. This helps you keep your card advantage. Now remember, when you reset the card, that means it can't actually be used again that turn, but, because it was just set, but still it's like going to be able to be used in the following turns. And during your end phase, you can target a Traptrix monster in your grave and summon it in defense. And as I've mentioned many times, they get some really cool effects when they're special summoned. And then 3 copies of the new Link 3 monster. I don't realistically think that you would like summon 3 in a duel, but hey, it could happen. It's new, so I ran 3. Anyways, it takes 2+ monsters, including an insect or a plant. It powers up your Traptrix monsters, and you can negate your opponent's card's effects and even destroy one of them. Face-up cards, though. Okay, that's all for the Link monsters. We've also got some Xyz. 3 of the new Traptrix Penguin. This one. So this lets you search for Traptrix cards, which is really, really handy. In addition to that, though, she's unaffected by the effects of cards that have the same type as something that is attached to her as material. And she can attach opponent's monsters to herself as material whenever they get banished or sent to the graveyard by any card effect. So very handy. We got 2 Traptrix Alameras, another one of my favorites. You can attach materials to summon Traptrix monsters from your graveyard, and when your opponent's monsters leave the field, instead of attaching to her like you would get with this monster, instead she just lets you straight up summon them to your field. And that can be handy in its own way. And finally, Traptrix for Felicia, one of the earliest Traptrix monsters. She lets you use trap hole effects straight from your deck by detaching, as well as protecting all of your Traptrix monsters. So I gotta say, I think that Konami did a really great job on this deck. It's extremely simple, straightforward, fun, and easy to play. Maybe one day I'll get to play it in a video, who knows? But thanks again to Konami for sending this over, letting me check this out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, learned something, got some value out of it. If you did, drop a like on the video. I would certainly appreciate it. And that's gonna be it. I'll see you guys in the next one.